All right. YouTube is good. Get on Facebook. Let's get on Facebook. All right. And then Facebook is live and the dogs immediately start going crazy. Okay. A little weird. I might have this down someday. Good morning. Good morning, guys. All right. So let's I'm running a little smidge late this morning. I don't know what happened. I feel like it's always like that though, isn't it? I don't know what happened. So a couple of things today, or just sort of in general. Oh, that's way over there. I have been thinking about doing an in-person class. So if you're not local, this has nothing to do with you. Sorry about the fuss. But I'm trying to figure out a place. Somebody suggested Benderson Park, which is a really big park. So that's kind of a very general place. So I'm thinking in 3 weeks from today, to do an in-person class. And I'll try to stream it as well. As long as I can get a signal, I'll throw it out there. And then also, I've been remiss. I meant to do a virtual retreat back, I don't know, like February or March, I was thinking, and that didn't happen clearly. So I'm also tossing around a date for that, maybe in late May or so. So if you are a paid subscription member on anydayyoga.com, that is free for you. It's a 3-hour event and it's fun. It's really interesting. We do a little discussion about things other than asana, right? Yoga related. And then I usually have a guest speaker come and talk about a related topic. And we do some restorative yoga at the end, which is always really nice. People like that. So if you're interested in that, keep that in the back of your head. I do allow other people to sign up for the class too, so it's not just for members, but it is free for members. So that's all I have, I think. So that's kind of keeping in the back of your head that fun things are coming. And today, I don't know, something about the last few months or a year, maybe even look in the mirror and go, dang, it's finally happening. Getting gray hairs and stuff. It's so weird. But it also made me think that I haven't spent enough time upside down. So gravity pulls you this way when you go upside down, right? It pulls you the other way. You can't really do that for 8 hours a day, but you get the idea anyhow, right? So we're going to be upside down a lot today. Now that doesn't mean we're going to be standing on our heads, and I do teach headstands, but I don't like to do that virtually, especially when I can't see you guys, because it can give you problems if you're not doing them correctly. So I'm going to skip headstands necessarily, right? But we'll play with other poses, right? So anytime your head is below your heart, technically that's inversion. So you'll have lots of opportunities to get that in. And of course, a little bit of everything else. So, good grief. So you'll get what you need, of course, right? If you don't necessarily want to go on. Everybody is ready to roll. Okay, you guys, let's do it. Remember just to listen to your body, whatever that might be. So if you don't want to be upside down, then you don't. You don't have to be upside down. No one's forcing you. No one ever does, but no one can see what you're doing anyway. So let's align the heels to the groin as much as possible here. Make sure you're upright on your pelvis. So adjusting that. Propping up on a block or a bolster as well. We aren't going to be here terribly long, but do what's right for you at any moment. Any moment, So we want to engage the lower belly, lifting the pelvic floor, lower belly in and up. We're tall through our sides, relaxed through the shoulders. Let your elbows be heavy. And then your hands are wherever feels best for you. Go ahead and close your eyes. Taking the bottom tips of the ears back so you feel your head come right over your shoulders and your neck goes. And just take a moment to kind of clear your mind, be completely present on your mat, in your body. Bringing the awareness to the breath and just being thankful, right? Being thankful for the breath. Whatever it's doing right now is keeping you alive, so it's all good. And then just take a couple of nice big cleansing breaths. So inhaling as deep as you can, and then maybe letting it go with a great big sigh, or a really slow, maybe out your mouth kind of thing. Just kind of stretching out your lungs for a moment. Gradually make your way to a yoga breath. So a little bit fuller than normal, maybe a little bit smoother or slower. And remember, whatever it is, you want to be able to maintain throughout your practice. So whether you're just sitting here like this or you're flowing through 7 million sun salutes, ideally, it's the same breath. Let's keep what we've got here. Extending the arms out to the sides. On the inhale, stretch them up toward the ceiling. And then exhale, bring them back down again. Let's do it again. One more time like that. And then back to the top, inhale. Exhaling your right hand back to the mat. Give yourself a little tip over to that side. Take a nice big breath here. Maybe draw the shoulder back or look up if you like. On the inhale, make your way back up to the top. And then exhale over to the left. Same idea. Just opening up the right side of the body and taking a nice big breath. Back up to the top again. And then once more like that to each side. So with your breath here, taking it back over to the right. Inhaling as we come back to the center. And then over to the left. Inhaling, come back to the middle. And then we'll release it. So sitting nice and tall here, still engaged through the belly. Let's take the left hand over to the right knee, right hand just behind the back a bit. Gentle little twist. Thinking about the alignment of the pelvis and the shoulders as much as the twist. Let's release that, coming back to center. Take your second side. releasing that back to the middle. Let's go back to the first side again, and let's go a little deeper with this one. So left hand to the right knee, right hand right behind your back there, pressing into the floor so you sit really tall. Pulling against the knee, imagine rotating your belly button around, rotating your side ribs toward the back of your mat. Maybe open up the right shoulder and lift over the right shoulder. And as we turn, sometimes this left shoulder kind of creeps in toward the chest. Put it back. It wants to help, but that doesn't really help to a sitting deeper. Let's unwind, come back to the middle. Same thing on the second side here. So setting your arms up, rotating around. Nice and even up the spine. Same idea, kind of checking in with the pelvis, checking in with your shoulders. Find more space for your spine. We'll release that coming back to the middle again. And then from there, let's make our way around into all fours. So bringing the wrists underneath the shoulders. Right, spread your fingers nice and wide. Cushion the hands or the knees here if you need, of course. We won't be here for forever, but sometimes that's what your body needs. And here we're going to just start with some cat-cows. So inhale the belly toward the floor. Exhaling, round your spine toward the ceiling. And then flow with your breath in and out. Working as evenly as you can, up and down the spine. One more flow. And then find center again. So a nice neutral spine here. From here, let's go ahead and take the right hand, palm face up. We're going to weave it underneath here and maybe just drop down to the elbow if that's you. Right? And we want to think stacking elbow, shoulder, and shoulder. Right? That may or may not be exactly where you are, but that's the idea. So either the elbow on the floor or all the way down to the shoulder. So then it's shoulder stacked on shoulder, right? And it's early, so this is a nice little twist. And if you want it bigger, you press more into the floor. So the more you kind of pull and press down with the right arm and then press down into the left hand, you can take that shoulder back and get that rotation around a little bit more. Make sure you're not leaning on your head. You don't want to stress out your neck here. The weight is on the shoulder. And if it sounds like fun, you can extend the left arm toward the ceiling. And ideally, we want the hand stacked over the shoulder, stacked over the right shoulder. And if you want to add in balance, step the left foot back. And see about lifting the toes. And again, these are all just options. We're going to release that side. And then switch, right? So the same idea on the second side, regardless of what it ends up looking like. Let's take the left hand and leave it under. Maybe just down to the forearm, or maybe down to the forearm for a minute and then get deeper, right? So pressing down into the floor to rotate around a little bit deeper. And then adding in the other pieces, of course, if you're ready for that. Finding extension through your spine here. Adding in a little bit of balance. Nice big breaths. And then we're going to release that side. So from our tabletop, let's shift into kneeling plank. So hands forward or knees backward, however you need to make that happen. Keeping the shoulders neutral on the spine, head in line with the spine. Sometimes we droop here, right? Staying aligned, keeping the belly active. You can stay on your knees or lift them away from the mat. And then from there, we're going to shift into our down dog. So just let yourself stretch and wiggle a little bit here. Bicycling the heels, shifting through the hips. And then allow yourself to begin to settle in. So technically, this is your second inversion, right? That little twist, the head was below the hips for sure. Same idea here. So with the breath, on an inhale, let's slide forward, coming back into our plank. And then with the exhale, take it back to your down dog. So moving in and out like that. And again, just controlled with the breath. If you need your knees on the mat, you take your knees to the mat, right? Once more, forward and back. And then go ahead and drop on down to the knees and take a child's pose. And even in child's pose, you can be more or less inverted, right? If you prop your head up on, say, blocks, right, or your stacked fists, it's less. And if you let your head come all the way down, it's lower than everything else, right? Or not everything, but you get the idea. So even tiny little things can help. Let's go ahead and lift ourselves back up into down dog. And this time here, we're going to lift the right leg. Pressing through the heels. Feel the extra extension here. Keeping everything else as is. Open the right hip, taking your toes a little higher. And then bend at the knee, putting the knee toward the ceiling. So you can definitely just let your head hang between your arms, keeping the shoulders level, or you can peek over your left shoulder and see if you can see your toes over there. Let's release that side. And then we're going to lift the left leg. So same idea, really stretch through your heels. Allow the left hip to open and bend at the knee. See if you can see your toes over on this side. Let's release that side. And then drop on down again. Give yourself a little mini break here. We're going to add on to that work, right? So remember that at any point, you can have your knee on the mat, right? Help adjust, right? So let's come back to down dog. We'll lift the right leg, opening at the hip, bending at the knee. Press the chest back, sink your left heel toward the floor. And then take the leg straight and square your hips again, but keep your toes up off the floor. Slide forward, come into a three-legged plank here. And then take it back to your three-legged dog. Release the right foot. And we will work the second side. So let's go. Lift the left leg. Allow the hip to open. Stretch those toes up toward the ceiling. Bending at the knee, maybe. Take the legs straight and square your hips again here. Make sure your belly's working. Slide forward for your three-legged plank. And then back to three-legged dog. Releasing the toes. Drop on down into child's pose again. So if your wrists bother you, right, and say down dog when you're in planks or anything, and you have a little chance to give them a release, sometimes if you spread your fingers really wide and then make some tight fists back and forth like that, it can release some of the tension in the hand. You know, if it's the wrist joint, that may or may not be helpful, but if it works for you, use it. Because we're going to add on one more time. So let's come back to down dog. We'll lift the right leg. Open at the hip, point the toes high, bend at the knee if you like. Look over your shoulder if that's fun. Maybe by now you can actually see the foot starts to appear. Take the legs straight, square your hips, slide forward to three-legged plank. Bend your elbows, drop down to the belly, and then release your toes. Let's take a little mini break here. So hands next to the side ribs, hug your elbows in toward each other on your back. Right? Imagine knitting them together on your back. From here, rolling with the breath. On the inhale, roll the shoulders up by your ears together on your back and down toward your hip bones. Exhale and release that. So just opening up the shoulders a little bit. If you want to get all fancy and use your arms and press up a bit, but really focus on what your shoulders are doing. Let's go one more roll. And then release, resting for a moment. Keeping the elbows in, shoulders back. We're going to press back up. Say nearly or full plank, and go ahead and drop down into a child's pose. So let's go to the second side. Back to down dog. Lift the left leg. Open at the hip. Bend at the knee. Take the legs straight, square your hips, support with the belly as you slide forward, and then take it to the mat. Release the toes. And then here, hands next to the side ribs, go ahead and roll into your shoulders. You can continue to roll up and down with your breath, or maybe hold here. Imagine sticking your chest toward the top of your mat, right? Reaching away from the body, so there's tons of space. And then if you want to pull with the hands, lengthen the spine, press into the hands and lift a little higher. Keep those elbows in and the shoulders down. Let's release that. Keeping the elbows in as we press back up, full or kneeling plank, and then back into your child's pose again. So let's come to down dog. And we'll walk the feet forward into a standing fold. Feet hip bone distance apart. Make sure your toes point forward. And then just walk in place a little bit. come to a middle and bend the knees enough that your belly will touch your thighs. So you might be really bent, you might be barely bent, whatever. Right? Whatever you got going on. We're going to reach behind the legs and hang on, right? Squeeze your belly to your thighs, but try not to squeeze your knees together. Keep them in a neutral position. We're going to keep squeezing in and then take the legs a little straighter. And maybe they go all the way straight and maybe they don't. Let your head hang. See if you can get that release all the way up the neck. Releasing the arms. Knees bent or straight, entirely up to you. We're going to take the fingers behind the lower back and interlace, drawing the shoulder blades together on the back. Stretch the knuckles away, maybe straight down your back, or maybe they start to lift away from your back. But again, the focus is on the shoulders, so keep pulling them closer together on the back, keeping the shoulders away from the ears. Find space. Let's gently release that. We're going to slide the hands up to the thighs. Bring the upper body parallel to the floor. Lean if you have to lean. But try not to lean back into your heels. The leaning happens with the hands on the thighs, right? Shoulders are back, so the spine is neutral. Your belly is working to support, of course. Let's go ahead and bend into the knees. Find chair. Nice and even on the feet. Little tuck of the tailbone if you feel like your pelvis is sitting back. Hang on, center, extend. Keep lifting the chest and sinking into the hips. One more breath here. And then we'll inhale, stretch into the ceiling. Exhale, release the arms. All right. So let's take a few sun salutes here. Follow your breath, not necessarily my cues. Modify if you want, whatever you need in these, right? So with the inhale, let's stretch the arms up. On the exhale, take yourself over into a fold. Halfway up. Exhaling as you step back into plank. Knees if you'd like, down to the belly. Inhale as you roll, maybe pull, maybe press into cobra. Keeping the elbows in as you press up and back to down dog. And then inhale, step forward into the fold again. Come halfway up. And then fold back over. Reaching for the ceiling. And releasing. Again, just like that. Inhaling as you lift up. Exhale and fold forward. Halfway up. Back into our plank. All the way down. Cobra. And then back to down dog. Stepping forward. Halfway up. Exhale back over. Reach all the way up. And then release. So we've got one more and we're going to add on, making it a little bit more complicated. Remember, maybe yes, maybe no. With the inhale, sit into a chair. And then exhale into your fold. Coming halfway up. Back into plank. All the way down. Roll into cobra. And back to down dog. Stepping the right foot forward, come to lunge. Make sure to get your toes to your fingers. You can drop the back heel or the back knee. Lift all the way up, reaching. And then releasing back over into lunge and down dog. Forward for a plank. And down to the belly. Into cobra. Back to down dog. Left foot steps forward. Get your toes up there. Heel or knee to the mat. Let's lift. And then come on back down again. Into down dog. Forward for plank. Last time. Down to the belly. Into cobra. And then back to your down dog. So holding down dog or drop on into child's pose. Nice smooth breaths. Getting your inversion here. How are we doing? Take one more breath where you are. Lifting back into down dog if you drop down. And then with the inhale, step the feet forward. We're coming back into our standing fold. Halfway up. Folding back over. Into chair. And then exhale to release it all. Here, it's on the foot. So let's go ahead and take a nice big step back with the right foot. We're going to work into warrior two here. So left toes pointing forward, right toes cut in just a little bit here. Body open to the side of the mat as much as you can manage. If you start rotating around, so you can keep this right hip open. So let's bend into the knee to begin. Looking for the big toe. Knee over ankle. And then extending the arms. So the temptation is to kind of kick this right hip up and lean forward. See if you can keep your pelvis level so that the shoulders are directly over the hips. Let's take another nice big breath. We'll take the left leg straight. Reaching forward over the toes. Reach as far forward as you can. And then that's your sign. The left hand falls and the right hand lifts. And you can lean on the leg if you need to lean on the leg. Remember, the body faces this side, not the front. So keeping the upper body kind of where it is, bend back into the left knee and rest your forearm there. See if you can sink a little deeper into your hips maybe this time. This right arm can stay up, it can come and reach over the ear, right? You can be leaning on this leg like that. Or you just let that arm kind of dangle down. And when your hips are low enough, maybe your fingertips touch the floor. But we don't want to touch the floor without the hips. Okay? So they are where they are. See about bringing this right hand behind the back. Reach around toward your left hip back there. And then you can use the leverage, right? Pressing against the inner thigh here and pulling against the outer hip to rotate, thinking belly button toward the ceiling. One more breath. We're going to release what we got, come over into this lunge, and then walk the hands around into the center of a straddle. So make it wide enough. Okay, toes are pointing forward here. And just like with our feet together, we don't want the hips hanging back there. We want to keep the hips right in line with the ankles. And allow your body to just hang here for a second, right? You can grab opposite elbow here, let your head hang. You can support up on a block, maybe if that's where you need to be. So from here, take the hands to the hips and bring yourself halfway up. Hold in the middle. Lean on the legs if you feel like you need to lean, but again, try not to lean back into your heels. And then hinge all the way up. And we'll move to our second side. So the left toes are pulled in a little bit and the right toes are moving toward the back of your mat. Start off by bending into the knee, check for your big toe, just like we did on the other side. And sometimes you have to make those adjustments between the sides. They're not the same. Sometimes. And then we'll turn it into triangles. So right leg straight, reach forward, and then let your right hand fall and your left hand lift. We'll bend back into the knee. Lean on the leg if you need to lean on the leg. And then whatever you add is entirely up to you. So maybe your hips can descend, maybe the arm comes over the ear, maybe this right arm sort of dangles down, or if your hips are low enough, you touch the floor. Sneak the left hand behind the back, reaching toward that right hip. And then use the leverage of the arms, pushing against the inner thigh here, pulling against the hip. Let's release to lunge. And then we'll walk the hands back around into our straddle. So here, take your hands flat to the floor, even if you have to bend your knees a whole bunch. Right? Take your hands flat. Spread your fingers. We want the hands shoulder width apart, just like in tabletop or planks or whatever, right? But then we want the tips of the fingers to line up with the tips of the toes. So pull them back. That space between your hands is for the top of your head. Maybe nowhere near that, right? But see where you are. How far away is that? Is that 3 inches? Is that 6 inches? Is it 2 feet? So wherever it is, just kind of take note. And then from here, I don't know how well this is going to work out. Let me move a little bit. So from here, let's go ahead and walk the hands forward. And we're going to come down at almost like a wide-legged plank idea, right? So let your hips come down. You can even let them sag a little bit, get that little stretch in the hip flexors. Walk back. Walk out again. Let your hips come down. And then walk back again. One more time. And then instead of walking forward, we're going to kind of walk backward, okay? Sort of. So turn your fingers around so that they point behind you. And the thumbs rotate out, right? Not in, because that would be awkward and weird. Well, it's still kind of awkward and weird, but you get the idea. From here, the hands walk as far back as they can. And maybe you're just happy to have them between your feet. Your legs are straight or bent. Of course, remember what you need here. And when the hands have gone as far back as they will, pull a little bit. Pull against the floor like you're going to pull your belly button between your thighs. Take another nice big breath here. And then walk the hands back in. So we're going to place them in that same spot, shoulder width apart. Fingers in line with the toes. And now see how close your head gets to that spot. And if you can make the top of your head touch the floor, notice if you're truly at the top of your head. Sometimes we get the forehead to the floor and we think, yay, right? But we want to see if it can actually be the top. So let's release all that nonsense. Walk the hands back around toward the left foot, lunging to the top of the mat, and step forward into the fold. Let's take a little bend in the knees here. With an inhale, we're going to roll up through the spine. And stand tall. All right. So let's get some standing balance in here. So if you want to be off your mat, you need to be near a wall, whatever you got to do here. And let's just, let's stick with tree. Okay? Just to play with the balance a little bit. We don't have to go with any inversions in our standing balance. So all the way over into the left foot, we're going to lift the right leg. Open at the hip. And again here, bring this foot to the inside of the left leg, whether your toes are on the floor, at the calf, or all the way up into the inner thigh. And you can definitely pull it open. But then to keep it there, press foot into the leg and the leg back into the foot. Tuck the tailbone, stand a little taller. Hands can be at center. Hips if you'd like, extending if that's you. Maybe look up. Make it challenging for you. Let's take another big breath. And then we're going to bring the arms in and release. All right, so let's go to the second side, taking all the weight over into the right foot. Standing nice and tall here as we lift the left knee, open at the knee, and then bring this foot in. So you can play with it. If it becomes too challenging, you drop the foot a little lower. If it's too boring, bring it up a little higher. Hug together, feeling the pelvis align, nice and even into that right foot. And then the arms go where the arms go. Remember, what is furthest away from the floor is least important. Stand nice and tall. One more big breath. And then we'll bring it back in and release. All right. So let's stretch the arms up. Give yourself a big full body stretch. Take it over into fold again. Stepping back to our down dog. Drop it back down into child's pose. And then from there, let's go ahead and slide forward out onto the belly. Simply roll over onto your back. And of course, take a second to realign. Go back to your mat. So we're going to work with bridge a little bit here before we get into the really yummy stuff. So take your feet flat to the floor, hip bone distance apart, even though I know you can't see them down there. If they're touching, they're too close. If you're touching the outsides of the hips, you're too wide, pretty much, right? So arms nice and tight on the sides of the body. Here you can bend at the elbows if that makes more sense for you. We really want to tuck them in for a little bit of strength and stability, right? So press down into your triceps. You'll feel your chest lift a little bit already. Keep that idea. Pull in with your feet so that the hips will lift up off the floor. Keep the tailbone tucking. Your head is comfortable here. And if you want to get all fancy, of course, you can interlace your fingers behind your back. Tuck your shoulders up underneath. Maybe if you've got a big old back bend, you can walk your feet in a little closer. But remember that the hips lifting is the point. So yeah, you could bring your feet closer if your hips droop, right? Or if you pinch your back. We don't want those things. We want to open up the pelvis. Make sure you're breathing. Getting a little inversion. Even here, right? Let's take one more breath. And then we're going to release it all. So hold with your feet flat for just a couple of breaths. Give your spine a moment. Let's draw the knees into the chest. And we'll rock a little bit. So keeping the knees hugging in toward the chest here, we're going to take the shins vertical. So whether you hang on to the backs of your thighs here, or you reach up and grab the soles of your feet, same idea, right? As long as you keep the shins vertical, it works either way. So you're going to pull down, bringing your knees either closer to your chest, or maybe opening them a little bit, and imagine bringing your knees into your armpits. Maybe nothing like reality, but that's the direction. And see if you can wiggle them in there. And maybe you rock a little bit, and then you can touch the floor. It's just fun and silly, so if you giggle a little bit while you do it, that's totally cool. Have fun with your practice. So let's come center. We're going to pull down on the feet. Again, drawing the knees as close to the armpits as they will go. Keep the arms pulling toward you. Kick the feet into the hands. So push and pull. And then release, taking the feet flat to the floor. Checking in that you feel aligned. And then just for a moment here, bring the soles of the feet together and just let your knees rest out to the sides. Releasing the hips and the lower belly. We'll bring the knees back together. And you know this last twist is your choice, right? So we're going to open the arms out into a T position here. And we start with the legs moving to the right. So whether you cross them first, okay, whether you just drop them to the side or you shift your hips first. Take your legs straight from there. Check in. Hang out in one variation for a little minute and then switch it up. Just noticing how your body feels. We'll take just a few more breaths on this side. So if you do want to change up your variation, give that a go. We'll bring it back to center. And whatever variation you did on the first side, ideally same thing on the second side. I always want to work towards symmetry, even if it's not perfectly the same. And we're traditionally not perfectly the same on both sides, right? Just a few more breaths over on this side. And then we'll make our way back up to the middle again. And draw the knees back to the chest. Give yourself a little rock. Bring them in for a nice big squeeze. Hug in, forehead toward the knees. Release that, taking a full body stretch. And then release your stretch, letting your arms come back down by your sides. And just take a moment. Check in that the body feels aligned. And that you feel comfortable in that space. So if you need to take your feet flat to the floor, or you're home, if you want legs up the wall, take legs up the wall. Making your body comfortable. And then allowing the body to still. Releasing control of the breath. And work to keep the mind still. The mind likes to wander off. And we're not doing something, it feels like it needs to do something too. Keeping the mind quiet, present. Just giving yourself a few minutes to rest. Slowly draw in a deep cleansing breath. And then let it go. Restoring small movements in the body first. Gradually allow yourself to wiggle and stretch. Keeping the eyes closed and the mind nice and quiet. Slowly make your way back up to a seated position. Sitting well. Bringing the palms to touch. Bowing to the light within. Namaste. That was nice, you guys. Nice and quiet here. Hopefully it was very peaceful for you as well. Happy Easter to those of you who celebrate. I think there's a couple of other religious holidays right around now as well. So whatever you practice, I hope you have a wonderful holiday, a wonderful weekend, just a great day. So keep in mind the live event and the virtual retreat. Keep those things in mind, they're coming. All right, I hope you guys had a great time, and I will see you next week, if not before. Bye.